Tonight, fuel prices surge around the globe with attacks on oil and gas facilities across the Middle East.
We have reserved the right to take military actions if deemed necessary.
As the conflict intensifies, the growing economic fallout, while U.S. officials struggle to justify the war.
It's pretty chaotic, and I think they're doing a lot on the fly.
Plus, Pierre Poilievre gets the Joe Rogan experience, speaking with the controversial U.S. podcaster about trade and Canadian sovereignty.
We're never going to be the 51st state, and I just wish he'd knock that shit off. So.
Will his message break through? At Issue looks at the politics behind it. And growing frustrations with the customer service at Canada's big telecom companies.
Every single part of it is designed to do one thing: preserve revenue for companies.
A CBC Marketplace investigation speaks to insiders who say their hands are tied.
From CBC News, this is The National with Erica Johnson.
Thank you for joining us. Adrian is on assignment. The fires that raged through a massive natural gas plant in Qatar are now under control, but the war raging through the Middle East is not, and the damage it's doing to the global energy supply is growing. Ripping through the markets, fear about where the war may be going. Crude oil briefly touching $119 US a barrel. Natural gas almost doubling from a month ago before dropping back at close. The impact on prices at the pump here in Canada, hard to miss. Across the Middle East, disruption to energy infrastructure, now a major factor in the war. Israel's strike yesterday on Iran's South Pars gas facility. Iran hitting back at gas facilities in Qatar and UAE, striking oil refineries in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. That is just the latest. Since the war began, gas facilities, oil fields, refineries, and ports from across the Gulf in Iraq and Iran have been targeted, damaged, or evacuated. Many are still closed. Katie Simpson in Doha, Qatar tonight, where residents are trying to keep the war at bay as it strikes at the heart of the region's economy.
Critical energy production sites across the Gulf region, targets for Iran. In Kuwait, smoke and flames engulf parts of a petroleum facility. In Qatar, the world's largest LNG hub, heavily damaged. Qatar Energy says $20 billion in revenue has been wiped out. Long-term energy deals with Europe and Asia are now in jeopardy. All of it prompting Gulf region leaders to hold an emergency meeting. Saudi Arabia emerging with a new warning for Iran.
We have reserved the right to take military actions if deemed necessary.
Iran says the attacks are retaliation for an Israeli airstrike on the South Pars gas field, which is Iran's main domestic power source. An attack the U.S. president says he didn't know about in advance, appearing frustrated by the provocation and its retaliation. And so Israel says the gas site is off limits for now.
Fact number one, Israel acted alone against the Slawia gas compound. Fact number two, President Trump asked us to hold off on future attacks, and we're holding out.
Across the Gulf, the conflict looms over so many aspects of daily life. Yet families still venture out, wandering through Souk Waqif, a rambling market in the heart of Doha with bustling stalls and plenty of kids excited for Eid celebrations. Despite everything, we need to let the kids feel safe and enjoy the Eid vibe, says Selma. As much as parents try to protect their kids, reality finds a way to creep back in. Hear that? Phone alerts from the government warning an attack is imminent. No one panics, no one rushes. It's just how life is here right now. We all just got emergency alarms, What was your reaction when you heard it?
Basically, it's now the emergency alarms is more scarier than the bombs, but whatever. It's like we've been through this now around almost a month, so yeah.
That alert you heard just there, well, about 15 minutes later, another alert was issued, and all clear, and people just continued on.
And Katie, the alerts may be getting routine, but the damage at the gas hub in Qatar is extensive.
It is. Qatar Energy says it could take 3 to 5 years to repair. This is going to be a significant blow to Qatar's economy and have massive implications to the global energy market that will last for quite some time.
Okay, thanks for this. That's Katie Simpson in Doha, Qatar. In a joint statement, Prime Minister Mark Carney, along with the leaders of the UK, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Japan, condemned Iran's attacks on civilian ships and infrastructure. Together, they call on Iran to cease immediately its attacks and other attempts to block the Strait of Hormuz to commercial shipping. And to get shipping going again, they expressed readiness to contribute to appropriate efforts to ensure safe passage through the strait. Right now, safe passage for many remains impossible. The cost of the war keeps rising. And as Paul Hunter shows us, the Trump administration is now asking Congress for $200 billion to help fund it.
From the very get-go, word from the U.S. leadership has been that victory in Iran is effectively at hand.
We fight to win, and we are winning.
Yet now the call for more money with which to get there. $200 billion more.
As far as $200 billion, I think that number could move, obviously. It takes money to kill bad guys.
On that, some Republicans quick to sign off.
Nobody asked what did it cost to win World War II. You just had to win. So whatever it costs to finish this is worth it.
But support is far from unanimous, certainly not from Democrats, even from some hardcore Republicans.
I will not vote for a war supplemental. No, I am a no. I am tired of the industrial war complex getting all of our hard-earned tax dollars.
We are substantially ahead of schedule.
The concern is that asking for so much more money signals the war is, in fact, far from over. On the big ask, says Trump,
we want to be sure, and it's a small price to pay to make sure that we stay tippy-top.
Adding to the worry this is just ramping up, those 5,000 Marines now headed to the region. And so, say some,
as we move more and more assets over to the region, there's a temptation to use them, and we don't really know why they're going. So I think this is a moment of significant flux. It's pretty chaotic, and I think they're doing a lot on the fly.
Trump denies a ground invasion looms, but that comes with a caveat.
No, I'm not putting troops anywhere. If I were, I certainly wouldn't tell you.
Sitting with Japan's prime minister and asked why he hadn't sought the help of other countries before attacking Iran, Donald Trump said it was to catch Iran off guard while drawing an unexpected parallel.
You know, when we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right?
You can see at the end of that clip, Erica, the Japanese prime minister looking over at her team sitting nearby and kind of locking eyes with one of them as if to say, didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, no kidding, Paul. And just separately, word from the Middle East, a U.S. fighter jet was hit in flight today.
A U.S. stealth fighter, Erica, an F-35, hit by suspected Iranian fire during a combat mission over Iran. If true, it'd be the first time a U.S. fighter jet has been hit by Iran since the war began. The U.S. saying just today, Iranian air defenses have been, quote, flattened. The jet made an emergency landing. The incident is under investigation.
All right, that's Paul Hunter tonight in Washington. Pierre Poilievre is making his case for tariff-free trade to millions of Americans and Canadians, appearing on the popular podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. As Kate McKenna explains, the chat covered a lot of ground, including Trump's 51st state threats.
How are you, sir? Pleasure to meet you.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
With over 20 million subscribers, Joe Rogan's podcast could be Pierre Poilievre's biggest stage yet.
Do you mind if I present you with something right out of the gate?
Sure.
All right, this is...
This gift of a kettlebell embossed with a Canadian flag kicked off a wide-ranging chat, including history, mixed martial arts, and maple syrup, and plenty of Canada-U.S. politics.
There's so much we could be doing together as neighbors and partners if we got rid of those tariffs. We're very proudly Canadian, so we're never going to be the 51st state. And I just wish you'd knock that shit off.
Poilievre pushed his philosophy of more resource development in Canada, better fiscal management, and smaller government, but says on cross-border issues, Prime Minister Mark Carney is taking the lead.
And even in my visit down here, I'm sending him text messages to tell him what's going on, to try and support his work. I won't criticize him on foreign soil. I
understand.
But
good for you.
Yeah, I mean, we have a mutual
That's
respect.
such a Canadian thing to do.
That is a very Canadian thing to do.
So polite.
You know, I think we had a great conversation. Joe's a great guy, and my mission was very simple: fight for Canada.
After recording with Rogan, Poilievre said appealing to Americans directly could help mend Canada's fractured relationship with its southern neighbor.
One of the biggest leverage points we have to fight for tariff-free trade, fight for our auto, steel, aluminum, and lumber workers is the goodwill of the American people.
At home, the response to Poilievre's push has been positive.
I'm not sure I see a downside in promoting trade with Canada.
Look, we could be years away from an election. The polls are not good for Conservatives or for Pierre right now. So why not try to do something like this, and let's see if it shakes things up a bit.
The podcast appearance ended with Joe Rogan saying if he was Canadian, he'd vote for Poilievre 100%. It's not his first endorsement. He also supported Donald Trump in the lead up to the 2024 election.
And Kate, this podcast isn't just popular in the United States, it's also #1 in Canada, too.
Yeah, and Poilievre's message is also for the Canadians listening at home. This week, the Conservative leader has toured the U.S., visiting Detroit, Houston, and now New York, pushing a pro-Canada message and aiming to blunt criticism that he hasn't been strong enough in promoting Canadian trade under threat by Donald Trump.
Thanks for this, Kate McKenna in Ottawa. And we'll have much more on this in a bit when the At Issue team with guest host Catherine Cullen take it on. That's in about 20 minutes. The federal government is rearming Canada's soldiers with a new weapons procurement deal.
The Defence Investment Agency has awarded Colt Canada with a contract to supply the Canadian Armed Forces with up to 65,402 assault rifle systems.
The new guns will replace models in service for nearly 2 decades. The initial order, roughly 30,000 weapons, will cost $307 million. Colt Canada has committed to include at least 80% Canadian content in the new rifles. The Supreme Court of Canada will hear challenges to the Liberal government's firearms ban. In 2020, Ottawa outlawed certain guns deemed assault-style firearms. That list has grown to about 2,500 gun models. Firearms rights groups argued the government lacked the authority to ban the guns. The court will hear 4 separate appeals together. 2 men have been deported for their involvement in a string of violent extortion cases, all targeting South Asian communities, according to Edmonton police. Sam Sampson now with what we know about their alleged crime network and the efforts to take it down.
To the members of the Southeast Asian community, you remain a priority to police.
That message from Edmonton police during an update on extortion crime rings. 2 men have been deported without charges, 3 people under investigation by the Canada Border Services Agency, and 51 more suspects identified.
Where the risk is local, the revenue is global, and the fallout is the erosion of the very trust that holds the Southeast Asian community together.
Arshdeep Singh and Sukhnaz Singh Sandhu were deported earlier this year. Police wouldn't say where to, only that removing them from the country would help the community feel safer. Federal documents allege the men have a long history of fraud and violence.
This strategy worked quickly. It eliminated the threat, ended the extortions by this group in the Edmonton area, and also prevented them from affecting other communities.
Extortion schemes targeting South Asian communities have spread across Canada, including online and in-person threats, arsons, and shootings. But some argue charges would have provided more transparency.
It's completely opaque, and just relying on immigration enforcement doesn't give the public any information that is actually going to reassure them that they're going to be safe. What the community is looking for is absolutely more transparent mechanisms like criminal prosecutions.
This former police chief and BC Solicitor General says there's no guarantee criminal activity stops once deportees are outside Canada.
But now what we've done is we've decided at the outset, well, hey, you come to Canada, you commit crimes, you're from a foreign country, we're just going to deport you. It just takes away from the confidence that Canadians need within our judicial system.
Police also worry other criminal organizations in Canada have started using this extortion model and say they're working with other law enforcement groups to tackle what they call an alarming trend. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Edmonton.
An Ontario mother and her 2 daughters have been stuck in Egypt for more than a year. The girls cannot leave the country after their father obtained a travel ban claiming he lived in Egypt. But as Angelina King explains, records show he lives here in Canada.
Right there's the airport.
From her balcony, Shannon Algazar can see planes taking off from Cairo International Airport. A frustrating sight since she and her 2 daughters, Ava and Noor, have been stuck in Egypt for more than a year.
Canada is their home. They're the victims and continue being victimized.
Algazar, who's from Ontario, took her daughters to Egypt to visit family on their father's side and learn about their Egyptian heritage. While there, she filed for divorce. But when she and her daughters tried to clear customs in Cairo to fly back home in January of last year, they weren't let through.
I was in shock.
Unbeknownst to her, Algazar's ex-husband obtained a court-ordered travel ban in September of 2024, preventing the kids from leaving Egypt without permission from both parents. Court records show Mahmoud Algazar told an Egyptian court he was living in Egypt and needed the ban to maintain access to his children. But other records show Mahmoud has been living in Canada in the Greater Toronto area since the travel ban was ordered. He declined an interview for this story. But in a statement, he said in part, "Any suggestion that I'm independently preventing their return to Canada outside the court process is inaccurate. At all times, I have acted in accordance with my legal rights and the best interests of my children." Algazar is pleading with the Canadian government for help.
I'm asking my fellow Canadians, if you can help my girls, be their voice. Please be my girls' voice in Canada, because right now they're drowning here.
In a statement to CBC News, Global Affairs Canada said, while consular officials cannot interfere in the legal process of another country, they are in close contact with the family and are providing consular assistance. Algazar's lawyer is working to get the ban lifted.
But it requires navigating the court and presenting evidence and often dealing with multi-level systems.
In the meantime, Algazar says her daughters long for the simple things.
Everything that we would take for granted, really, playing hockey.
Things quintessential to Canada, their home. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
A fringe platform rooted in Canada accused of monetizing hate.
They're making money off of trying to provoke and harass people.
Free speech or the business of bigotry? Complaints about telecom companies are reaching new heights, and some employees say they're not surprised.
They'll often tell you, this is my first day on the job.
Marketplace on why those agents say their hands are tied. And meet the world's strongest firefighter.
Come on, you got it, you got it, you got it, you got it!
We're back in 2.
Hi guys, we are now in the limo. Wish me luck. Bye.
ABC has pulled the upcoming season of The Bachelorette just days before it was set to air. The network cites a newly released video appearing to show a domestic violence incident in 2023 involving the show's star, Taylor Frankie Paul. Police say a separate investigation involving Paul and her ex-partner is ongoing. Her other show, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, has also paused filming. A Fifth Estate investigation is looking into the big business behind online extremist content. One platform called Entropy is the brainchild of 3 Canadians. As Joanna Remiliotis learned, it helped a neo-Nazi group spread its deadly influence. And a warning, this story contains hateful and anti-Semitic content and imagery.
A quick scroll on Entropy's homepage reveals a lot, but the platform does more than host dozens of white supremacist voices. It helps them make money.
They're making money off of intimidating people. They're making money off of trying to provoke and harass people.
It's the Jews!
Among those on Entropy, a neo-Nazi group called Goyim Defense League, or GDL. GDL collected donations on Entropy while its members spread hate and attacked people in Nashville in July 2024. One of GDL's flyers was also linked to a school shooting in Nashville a few months later. The group's leader celebrated any potential influence it had on the student who opened fire.
Propaganda's so strong over here.
Será su cadenita.
16-year-old Jocelyn Diana Correa Escalante was killed that day. Her parents are horrified that there is profit to be made from their pain.
Son personas que no se tocan la conciencia, como que no tienen un corazón.
Within 2 years of its launch, Entropy's co-founder posted that the platform had processed more than $3 million in transactions. Its owners take a 15% cut of the revenue. We tracked down the Alberta couple behind Entropy to Tbilisi, Georgia, where they have lived since 2022.
They left. Like a few days ago, maybe a week ago.
Rachel and Emmanuel Constantinidis did not return our requests for comment.
I've got 3 to take a look at.
Legal experts say a lot of harmful content is considered awful but lawful, but regulation is needed.
I think we need to be more direct about what the threat is here, that you have businesses that are essentially monetizing hate.
And back in Nashville, it's devastatingly clear what hate can destroy. Joanna Rumiliotis, CBC News, Toronto.
And you can watch the Fifth Estate's investigation, The Business of Bigotry, right now on YouTube or tomorrow at 9 p.m. on CBC Television and CBC Gem. Spain has introduced maximum wait times for customer calls to telecommunication companies, and Canada's regulator says it's watching closely.
This will change the everyday life of millions of consumers.
Why insiders say reform is long overdue. And after the break, Catherine Cullen is here with At Issue.
Hi, Erica. Tonight we're going to talk about Pierre Poilievre's big interview with Joe Rogan.
What are the biggest problems in America today? Affordability, security. And we can help with both.
It's the world's most popular podcast, but the host is controversial. Was it a good move on Poilievre's part, and did it help sell Americans on tariff-free trade? Chantal, Althea, and Andrew join me to talk about that and more.
Excellence does not arise from a single path or profession. It rises from every corner of our country.
Governor General Mary Simon investing 32 Canadians into the Order of Canada, recognition for their work in several fields, including healthcare, the arts, and child advocacy. Among them, former CBC correspondent Melissa Fung and longtime CBC broadcaster George Strombolopoulos. Customer complaints against Canada's big telecom providers are soaring as many push back about billing issues in particular. Now, as Asha Tomlinson shows us in the CBC Marketplace investigation, insiders say their hands are often tied by restrictions, meaning getting a refund or correction is rarely simple.
Is it something to do with your TV programming?
Vicky Sloot spent weeks on the phone with Bell agents trying to get specialty channels at the price she was initially promised.
It's impossible to get a single right answer that is consistent throughout each support agent.
It wasn't until we contacted Bell that Sloot finally got her channels and a $30 discount on her monthly bill. She's not alone. Last year, there were a record 23,000 complaints to Canada's telecom watchdog, with billing issues at the top of the list. And it's not just customers. Employees are complaining too. A TELUS frontline rep says every credit and refund she gives is closely monitored. We've altered her voice because she fears speaking out will cost her her job.
Credits above a certain level have to be approved by a manager. I have barely leeway.
And a Rogers insider tells us more outsourced agents are making even the simplest issues difficult. We've altered his voice too.
They'll often tell you, this is my first day on the job. I don't really know anything about this. They don't have very much experience or knowledge of what to do in those situations.
Amos Tanuma managed call centers for years and says bad customer service is often by design.
Every single part of it is designed to do one thing, not to resolve your issue, but to save money and preserve revenue for companies.
Bell says it failed in Vicky's case, but any assertion that its operations are designed to avoid resolving issues is simply not true. The company, along with Rogers and Telus, say they're investing in customer service and trying to do better. Spain just passed a law forcing large companies to answer calls within 3 minutes max. Major issues, they have just 15 days to fix them.
This will be a revolution in terms, it's a small thing, but will change the everyday life of millions of consumers.
The CRTC says it's keeping a close eye on Spain to see if it could shape policy here in Canada. Asha Tomlinson, CBC News, Toronto.
And you can catch the full marketplace investigation, Customer Disservice Telecom Edition on CBC Gem, YouTube, or on CBC TV, Friday at 8 p.m., 8:30 in Newfoundland. Now let's break down the news shaping our world. Tonight, guest host Catherine Cullen is here with At Issue.
At Issue tonight, Pierre Poilievre's U.S. tour ends with a bang, appearing on one of the world's most popular podcasts and addressing Donald Trump's 51st state threats.
We're never going to be the 51st state, and I just wish he'd knock that off.
Pushing for an end to U.S. tariffs.
We should get the tariffs out because there's so much we could be doing together as neighbors and partners if we got rid of those tariffs.
And inviting the popular but controversial podcaster to come to Canada.
If you win, I'm coming up there, I promise.
Well, we're going to try to get you up there earlier. I'm going to keep working on you.
So why, after saying no before, has Poilievre decided to say yes to the Joe Rogan experience now? And will it help Canada's cause? I'm Catherine Cullen. Rosemary is away, but here to break it all down are Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, and Althea Raj. Chantal, I want to start with you. This conversation is more than 2 hours long. What did Pierre Poilievre accomplish?
Okay, I asked myself 3 questions. Does it objectively help Canada? And remember, Joe Rogan has a large audience that includes a lot of pro-Trump people, including himself, at least back at the time of the election. So objectively, did it help the cause of Canada as we're about to renegotiate trade? I think the answer is yes. No time was wasted on partisan politics, and hard pass on taking hits at both Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney. I thought taking a pass on Justin Trudeau was more remarkable than taking a pass on Mark Carney. Did he help himself? I believe he did. The third question goes back to the question you were asking yourself. Should he have done that back last year in the election campaign? Probably, although I suspect that back then, the pro-Canada message wouldn't have necessarily been received by Joe Rogan as positively as it was today.
Andrew, Poilievre's stated mission in doing this, he said, was to fight for Canadian workers, to make the case against tariffs on Canada. To what extent do you think he succeeded in doing that?
Well, the specific point about tariffs, I'm not sure that there'd be a lot of bandwidth on this type of show and for this kind of listener to really make the case there. But more broadly, I think he presented a sympathetic face of Canada, if you will, for that kind of audience. We shouldn't underestimate how much the Trump administration has been trying to kind of whip up, if you can believe it, anti-Canadian feeling Americans. I don't think they've succeeded with the public at large, but amongst their own following, they'll basically follow anything the administration says. So to have somebody on there who they can relate to, I think is helpful. They've conjured up this image of Canada as this kind of woke dystopia, and that's hard to pin on Pierre Poilievre, to say the least. I think the other thing it's able to do is, it's sometimes you need to go against type. On the one hand, he's on the Joe Rogan show, so that'll appeal to a certain section of the base who like to see them touching base with that. But he also took the time to sort of emphasize his differences, not only going after Donald Trump on the 51st state business, in probably the strongest language we heard. At one point, he said it was just crazy talk, but also just on not taking the bait from Joe Rogan on things like, was Fidel Castro the father of Justin Trudeau and these kinds of things. So he politely distanced himself, both in terms of tone, but also stylistically. If this was 2 years ago, he might have shown up in a T-shirt to emphasize how bro-y he was. This time he showed up in a suit and tie, looking a bit more prime ministerial. So all in all, I think he modestly helped himself with this.
Althea, I want to lean in on this idea of the taking the bait. I mean, Joe Rogan is somebody who has no problem with a conspiracy theory. Poilievre and his people would have known this. Andrew references the part where Rogan at one point says, oh, well, Fidel Castro, isn't he Justin Trudeau's dad? And Poilievre really shuts that down, says, not true. I don't believe that's true. How much of a risk, though, was Poilievre facing going into something, knowing that the host could kind of take this any which way and certainly into things that don't have a lot of basis behind them?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a risk going into a theater where you're not sure where the host is going to take the conversation, where the host has already in the past been accused of anti-LGBTQ comments, of racist comments, someone who trumpeted his support for Donald Trump, who had Elon Musk on his show. But I mean, the conversation was pretty tame. You could see that Pierre Poilievre was nervous right off the get-go, and it's kind of odd, frankly, because most of us don't see Pierre Poilievre being nervous all that often. But the conversation, I don't think accomplished necessarily what Pierre Poilievre initially suggested Thursday morning he was setting out to do. Like, I don't think the listener came away thinking, this is why we need free trade with Canada. I do agree with both of my colleagues, though, that Pierre Poilievre presented a very sympathetic face to Canada. He talked about, the need for Canada and the U.S. to work together, that we have all these critical minerals that the Americans need as well, for example. He talked about our natural resources as an angle to help the United States on the affordability issue. But mostly it was a conversation where Pierre Poilievre came across looking very sympathetic. This is a guy with 11 million average views on his podcast. That's nothing to sneeze at. For a core constituency of the Conservative Party, young men who are mostly the listeners of Joe Rogan, this obviously speaks to them. And today, he had another speech to a foreign policy audience where he did make that case about partnership and allyship with Canada and tariff-free trade. And so I don't know if the political mission was accomplished with Joe Rogan, but I think his personal mission was accomplished with Joe Rogan. And I don't know what Pierre Poilievre plans to do if he, doesn't win the next election. And this certainly will help him in whatever endeavor he chooses to go in.
I mean, Chantal, to Andrew's point earlier, it probably is helpful to have Joe Rogan say to an audience that does include a lot of Trump supporters over and over again how much he loves Canada, how much this 51st state thing is ridiculous. But I wonder if you can reflect a bit more on the fact that Pierre Poilievre is doing this now. He didn't do it during the election campaign. He said at the beginning of the podcast, it's timing, I don't want to leave the country. But Rogan has said in the past that Poilievre didn't come on because Poilievre's team told him he was too problematic. So what do you think it tells us about where Pierre Poilievre's head is at right now?
Well, it has been part of a shift from saying I'm going to do everything different from the Liberals in government to I'm going to be doing better than what the Liberals are in government. And we've seen that over the past few weeks. You asked about risks. I think the biggest risk, and I'm not sure it's that big a risk, was his most definitive statement to date on Alberta's separation.
Not going to happen.
Which he shut down without a pause, as in this isn't going to happen. And I don't think he'd ever been that clear. So if there are people who are angry at this, he got Joe Rogan's endorsement as a future prime minister. But if they're angry at this, it was going to happen at some point that Pierre Poilievre would have to say that very clearly. It happened then. This is maybe where he gets the most pushback. And it's going to be centered on Alberta. It will probably reassure some of the voters who are normal Conservatives in Alberta and who have been giving Mark Carney a second look because they want to be sure that they vote for the party that will defend their province staying in Canada.
Well, if nothing else, it accomplished the effect of getting a lot of attention on this trip. Quick last thought from you, Andrew?
Well, it's not like he's protecting a lead. He's got to take risks, even moderate ones like this. And it's much better to look proactive and like you're working hard to try to get people's votes rather than just sitting somewhere, wringing your hands over your bad poll numbers. So from that standpoint, people like to see you work.
Okay, we're going to leave this conversation there. But when we return, we're going to take a look at Mark Carney's first year as Prime Minister. From floor crossers to world tours, Mark Carney has had an eventful year since winning the Liberal leadership. Has the Prime Minister's first year lived up to expectations? That's next. At issue, the year of Carney. We've just crossed the one-year mark since Mark Carney's win of the Liberal leadership race, becoming the 24th Prime Minister and laying out his priorities as PM.
I pledge to you and to all Canadians that I will follow their example. I will work day and night with one purpose, which is to build a stronger Canada for everyone.
From MPs crossing the floor to join the Liberals to the struggle to get a deal on tariffs with Trump, what is to be made of Carney's first year in office? Here to break down Mark Carney's first year, Chantal Lebert, Andrew Coyne, and Althea Raj. Althea, I want to start with you. You've done a lot of writing around this recently. On the one hand, Mark Carney's more popular than he was a year ago. On the other hand, he still hasn't gotten that deal he wanted on tariffs. The opposition criticizes him for not moving fast enough on building Canada. How has Mark Carney done, would you say, a year out?
It really depends on who you ask and what their expectations were. If you ask people, are you better off at this time than you were this time last year? You know, the Conservatives will point out, and some Liberals will point out, that people are not. The affordability crisis is still front and center. The Trump stuff has not been dealt with. Mark Carney has basically laid down the foundations for future economic growth where he sees it, but the delivery on those promises hasn't happened yet. And I think a lot of Canadians understand that is what's happening, and that is why they are giving him a long leash to follow through on that mandate. On the other side, I think you can see that there are a lot of people who, especially progressive voters, who lent Mark Carney their vote to deal with a crisis that is still front and center and who still prefer him to Pierre Poilievre by a huge margin. But there is disappointment on the climate file. For example, there is disappointment on healthcare. You know, Alberta introduced a piece of legislation that clearly violates the Canada Health Act, and the federal government said peep squat about it. You have another concerning thing that Andrew and I have both written a lot about, which is this kind of authoritarian bent from the Carney government. Mark Carney and some of his cabinet ministers are certainly in a hurry. And the message to the public service is also to be in a hurry to deliver on the things the government wants. And they have taken shortcuts. And if you listen to Elizabeth May, for example, of the Green Party, there are even senators, Parliament is being cut out of that discussion, whether those are controversial bills that take power away from Parliament and give it to the executive. We've seen a litany of examples where there is a kind of a power grab brought to the executive. There is lack of transparency. And on liberal values, you know, like they've introduced a refugee bill that's actually more restrictive than what we see in the United States. And so there are a lot of people that are saying, wait a second, there's some warning signs here, and we need to keep a closer eye on what exactly the Carney government is doing.
So Chantal, Althea talks about warning signs, but also voters giving Carney a long leash. I think a lot of that seems to come down to Donald Trump. If you are Mark Carney and the Liberals, how long can you really expect that leash to run?
For as long as Donald Trump and Pierre Poilievre are the people that they have been over the past year. Because that is basically, Donald Trump does one thing for Mark Carney by constantly being in Canada's face in so many ways. He keeps people focused on the choices for who will lead the country, as opposed to all these other issues that Althea mentioned, because that is the top of mind issue when you think of who the Prime Minister should be. And Pierre Poilievre, so far, and subject to the success of his rebranding, has been an agent of Mark Carney's success in the sense that many Canadians have, looking at either or, have come to the conclusion that there is not a valid or a better alternative to Mark Carney. How long that lasts? It depends. But the one thing that is a measure of success after 1 year of any leading politician is political capital. And it is very rare in difficult circumstances that one accumulates more rather than loses some. And at this point, Mark Carney has accumulated, obviously, when you look at polls. And despite the reservations, a lot of political capital over his first year, no buyer's remorse, and voting for someone who never spent a day in the House of Commons and who was an unknown quantity. I'm not saying there's Carney mania out there, but at this point, a strong plurality of Canadians believe that, and still believe that he is the best person for the job.
So, Andrew, political capital, says Chantal. What he doesn't have is a majority government, at least not right now. How much do you think that matters politically?
I don't think it matters a great deal. He's pretty close to a majority anyway. If he was on the, 1 point to the positive side or 1 point to the negative, doesn't make a whole lot of difference in terms of your ability to manage Parliament. Nobody's going to provoke an election anytime soon, particularly in light of these poll numbers. A year in to be at the party's close to 50% in some polls. He's above 60% in the personal approval. So on that indicator alone, you'd have to say he's had a pretty good year. He benefits from not being Justin Trudeau, from not being Donald Trump, and from not being Pierre Poilievre. And at this exact moment in history, he seems to be what a lot of Canadians are looking for in terms of his personal qualities and demeanor. He's not flashy. He's not the warmest guy, perhaps, but he's sort of down to earth, technocratic. I think it was Scott Reid, the former Liberal communications consultant, marveling that he seems to have gotten a major boost out of going to Davos and giving a speech at that supremely elite event. And he would not normally have recommended that as a way of dishing the populists, if you will. But that's where we're at. The nature of this struggle we're in right now is it's not particularly policy-oriented or programmatic. There are things that the government needs to do and the country needs to do, but most of those are in the offing. And there's a lively and legitimate debate going on that Pierre Poilievre has contributed to, of, to what extent do you want to diversify and look externally for your ticket out of this, and to what extent do you want to build more resilience inside? That's a legitimate debate. But I think for a lot of Canadians right now, where they're at is they're just looking at leadership. They're looking at who do they think has the temperament, the character, the judgment, et cetera, to handle this very uncertain, very strange, unprecedented territory with effectively a madman in the White House. The worst nightmare that any Canadian could conjure. And that tends by its nature to take focus away from things like affordability or housing or the budget, where people might not perhaps score him as well. And for now, that's where the focus is, and therefore he's being marked up well. The longer time goes on, depending on what happens, what eruptions we see coming out of the White House. But if things calm down that front, then obviously at some point people are going to be shifting their focus back a bit towards more domestic matters. And at that point, if we're 2-3 years into this government and he still hasn't delivered more than just fine words, then I think he'll be held more to account accordingly.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. That is it for At Issue on The National. We are going to continue this conversation and talk about the race for the NDP leadership. You can catch that on YouTube or on the At Issue podcast. Now, back to Erica in Vancouver.
Thanks, Catherine. Coming up, a Canadian becomes the world's strongest firefighter.
That's kind of neat to have making my little fingerprint on history.
His winning performance next in our moment. This is Evan Yorsky, and yes, he is pulling a fire truck. The feat, just one of the challenges at the world's strongest firefighter competition. In all, the two-day strength-based event features 9 grueling tasks, and when it was all said and done, the Canadian took the title. So now, his performance makes our moment.
Athlete ready, judge ready, go!
I competed in the World's Strongest Firefighter, which is essentially a firefighter-themed strength competition. I won the overall title in my weight division. Everybody has to be a firefighter to join.
Let go!
It was 9 events over 2 days. There was the axe front hold. I just hold a couple axes that are attached together, straight arms in front of me for as long as I can. Press and deadlift medley. The hydrant carry.
Keep going, keep going, keep going!
Go!
Come on, B!
The hardest event was probably the truck pull. I'm strapped in to the front bumper of a fire truck and I have to pull it 50 feet as fast as I can. That one's a bit more of a grind. When they were announcing the top 3 firefighters, I wasn't sure what to expect. It was a bit of a surprise. I just kind of got overwhelmed with emotion. When it comes to these international type competitions, I try not to put that pressure on myself. It's kind of neat to have making my little fingerprint on history.
And this was Evan's first time competing at the world's strongest firefighter competition. Now, our producer asked if the tasks involved are similar to being a firefighter, and he said, not really, but you do have to have a lot of strength for both things. I think he has that down. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. I'm Erica Johnson in Vancouver. Take care.